All right, so this week what we're going to do is kind of take a break from any HTML or CSS or any of that. We're not going to be doing any coding. We're actually just going to be doing um, some Photoshop, right? So for those of you that are like my graphic design students and feel really comfortable inside of Photoshop, this week will be great for you. And those of you that are more my coding students, you've had it easy. So this week is your turn. So this should actually be relatively easy if you've done Photoshop or what have you. There's not going to be anything super special or interesting, really, honestly, about it, but that's what we're going to do. Okay, so the idea here is we're just going to make a wireframe. We're going to basically make a visual version of our site. We're just going to do an image. It's not going to be it's not going to be the actual site, but this way it'll be kind of something we can reference in order to make our site. Okay, so that being said, first thing you're going to want to do is you'll look right underneath the resources, and you'll see you're going to download this zip folder. Okay, it'll also probably be in Blackboard, so just click on that, download it. It will download. It will look like this. You're just going to extract it, extract all, and then you'll end up with this folder here, which basically it's this grid and some pictures I just grabbed off the internet. All right, so I don't have rights to these. This is for educational use, and these are placeholder images. They're not my main pictures. I literally just grabbed them because I just needed pictures. So this is like when we're just first starting out. If you're working with a client and you want to build out a website for them, you're not going to waste all your time trying to make the site until you know what they want it to look like. And when you first start the site, they're probably not going to have the images for you yet, right? So what you do is you just use stock photos or whatever you can find and use those in place of where the final pictures are going to be. Just like we use the lorem ipsum text just to fill in so that we have dummy text, which we will also be using. That's what the purpose of it is. Okay, so we're going to kind of make it look like a web page, but it's not going to be. All right, so these are the pictures we're going to use. After you unzip it and you get to this point, you're just going to double click on it and it's going to open up in Photoshop. Now, some of you probably don't already have Photoshop installed. If you don't, just go ahead and install it. This semester, obviously, they're giving you access to the Creative Cloud. You should have already installed Dreamweaver, so you should already be part of that ecosystem. So you should be able to, in your Creative Cloud application, just go in and add that to your installation. So it'll just be down here, and mine suddenly disappeared. Oh, it was there a second ago. Oh, there it is, Creative Cloud. So you're gonna click on that. That should be on when you have Dreamweaver, or when you turn your computer on. That should be on, and then it will do nothing after you click on it. Well, if it pops back up, if it shows up anyway, I'll show you what I mean by that. Anyway, it'll pop up and you'll see a list, and then you can add apps to it. Okay, so when you open this up, this is what you're going to see, and basically it's 12 columns, and it's got there's just these graphics and the columns in between. Okay, so you can see there's these are columns, and the white space in between the columns, this stuff here, these are called gutters. Okay, so between each column is a gutter, and that's because if you have a paragraph, right, there's a space between this paragraph and the next one. So we're going to use this to basically lay out our work. Okay, so go ahead and make a new layer, and you'll have a new layer there. And then what we're also going to do is open up those pictures. So I'm just going to go to open, and I'm just going to go to my images in that lab. So where are you? Right here, images, and just do file, open, and then just click and drag across all of them and hit open, and they should all open up on tabs up in the top here. And that way we can easily grab them afterwards when we need them. Okay, I'm going to click back on this one, and here we go. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of lay out a site how I think it should look. So, yeah. So before I even do this, what I want to do is think about what I want to use for my text and what I want to use for my color. Okay. Now I think I've mentioned this before. Color is not necessarily my strongest suit, so I usually like to use that Adobe color. So I think it's like color.adobe.com, like that. So like the word color dot the word Adobe and then .com, and it'll bring you to this. And then from here, you can choose color scheme. So what I would say is I'm going to go ahead and just use the analogous color scheme. And I actually am going to stay in this orange spectrum. And I would say just use 3 colors. That's enough. You can use more if you want, but 3 should be enough. So what you need to think about is what you want your background color to be, what you want your main color to be, and then maybe like an accent color. Okay, so I'm thinking I'm just going to use these 3 here. This should be relatively harmonious. So I'm going to use these 3 colors. Okay, so these are the 3 colors that I'm picking. Should be great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. This is the hex code. I'm going to take that. So you're just going to copy it, Control C. So click and drag across it, and then Control C or Command C if you're on a Mac. Go back to Photoshop and rename this layer color. Okay. So again, when I made it, I just, in case you missed it, these are my layers. Okay. So I have a background, it's just white, and these are just like sheets of paper that are stacked on top of each other. So with this selected, I'm just going to click up, and it's just going to put a layer above it. I'm going to double click on it and call it color. Or actually, let's call it colors. Okay, so all my colors I'm going to put in here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab my paintbrush. This is the paintbrush. It might be underneath one of these other ones. If you click and hold, you can see all the brushes available. And I'm going to go up here. These are the settings for the tools, and I'm going to choose hard round. Okay, and then you should see the brush tip here. If you hit the bracket keys to the right of the P key, the braces there, looks like mustaches. It's going to make this a little bit bigger. And then what I want to do is I'm just going to paint a little swatch, just in down here, or well, we'll just put it down here. Okay, so I wanted to use that color. So what I'm going to do is click on this, and it's going to pop open my colors. And you can see right here is the hex code of the color I have currently. I'm just going to drag across that and hit Control V to paste the color that I had. And I'll hit Enter, and now that's my color. And all I want you to do is just go boop, like that. Now I can't, it looks a little bit pink. That's because this is overlay, so I'm going to turn this off at the V so I can see it a little bit better. I also don't like these lines in the way, so if you just hit Control H or Command H, or you go to View, you go to View and just turn extras off. Okay, so that's the first color. Now I'm going to go back to my site, and I'm going to grab this one. So I'll just click and drag across it, Control C, go back to Photoshop, and then while I'm still on this, I'll click on this, just click on this swatch here, and then I'll hit Control V, then I'll hit Enter, and then I'm just going to draw a swatch here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is the same thing again. I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to grab this guy. I'm going to grab it. So we'll go Control C, back here, click on this guy, and I'm just going to pump it in here, Control V, Enter, and boom. Okay, so now I've got my 3 colors. I think that should probably work fine. And whenever I need to use a color, I can just use the eyedropper. Where are you? Why do I not see you? It's I. Oh, right here. Eyedropper. I can just eyedrop on any one of these, and then that will be the color that I'm currently using. Okay, so they're good just for that. So if you've ever seen like digital illustrations, sometimes you'll see these little swatches on the side, or if you see designs and stuff. The reason why you see those is that basically they've already kind of picked out the color scheme, and then they just sample those to maintain that color scheme all the way across. All right, so we've got those. That looks great. The next thing I need are my font choices. Okay, so you should have generally 2 types of fonts. You're going to want title fonts, and you're going to want body fonts. Okay, so title fonts are generally your more interesting fonts. They're usually very short. They go on titles, right? So it would be like the title of your website. That would be your title font. They're more interesting. They draw the viewer in, but usually because they're more interesting and more visually complicated, they can't be used in large bodies of text because it'll muddy it. It'll actually strain the eyes and make it harder to read. So usually you have that font, which is your fun font, we'll say, and then you have the body font, which is usually a very basic, usually like a sans serif, like an Arial or Roboto or something like that, where it's just very basic, easy to read. 90% of them are kind of like the same looking thing. Okay, so you're going to have basically 2 types of fonts. And hang on one second. Hey, Ava, quiet. Stop. Just stop it. Hopefully listens. I don't know. That's not my dog. I hate that dog. Anyway, she's been interrupting all my videos all day. Okay, so you can have those two fonts. So this is, again, another area where I don't feel particularly strong. Luckily enough, just like color combinations, there's actually a science to it. There's actually a science to the font choices as well. This is one of those things where hopefully over time maybe you'll get more and more of a feel for it. Again, though, I'm just going to use a cheat because that's what I do. So another thing you can do is fonts.google.com. Now, this won't entirely work for you, but we'll be using this later on. Basically, Google hosts fonts that you can embed into your site. And I'm going to show you how to do that later. That's not today. That's like a later thing. But what's neat is this. So, is that basically it'll give you pairings. Yeah, that's great, man. Get out of here. Okay. So we can choose categories, and you'll see your basic categories. We've got serif, the ones with a little extra, well, they have what's called serifs. They have little nucks on them. Sans serifs, which is like what this is. It's very basic, has nothing in it. Display, those are like your fancy, interesting looking fonts. Handwriting, which looks like handwriting, so like cursive fonts and that sort of thing. And monospace, which looks like code. So right off the bat, you don't want monospace. You might want, what I'm going to do is look for my title font, not for my body font. Because the body font's a little more boring anyway. And quite frankly, once you make the one, the other's a little bit easier to find. Then after that, I probably don't want a serif or sans serif. Because those are, unless it depends on what you're looking. Think about what you're trying to do. Like if you're making a site that's all about coding, then, you might want to use a monospace, right? Or if you're making a site and it's meant to be like a newspaper site, maybe a serif font would make sense to be for your title, right? But I'm going to go more fun, so I'm not doing that. And I don't like handwriting fonts generally. I just find them hard to read, even in small. You can see how these are really hard to read. So I'm going to turn handwriting off and just leave this is a handwriting font. I don't know what they're saying, but I'm just going to leave display on, which are my fun ones. Okay, so I'm just going to do that, and then I'm click off, and then I'm just going to look for a font I think that would work. Now, the other thing I'm going to do too is, where is it? Right here. So I'm going to put, the name of my site is going to be all about, you know what, actually let's do it all lowercase. All about cones, because your next project is going to be about a hobby of yours. So I'm going to make mine all about cones. So from there, I'm going to make some choices, and I can look and scroll down and find ones that you think look nice, that you think would work. I think they organize it by popularity. Let me see, sort by trending. Yep. So actually, kind of like this one. As bad as it is to go by trending, because it makes it less unique. Actually, I'm going to go with this one. I like this one. Because it makes it less unique. If it's trending, it means that obviously people are familiar with it. They like it. They find it appealing. So going with the popular one is, you got to remember, you're right. The thing you're trying to do is appeal to your broad audience. So trending, as much as I hate the word freaking trending, it is a big part of what we're trying to do. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to use this Comforta, right? So I'm going to say, okay. So if you look at the X height of it is, it's a very open font. You can see how round and stuff it is. So I think that goes well with my whole cones thing. So I like that. Now, after you choose it, what you can do is if you scroll down, they'll show you popular pairings. It feels like it's like, when you go to like dinner or something, they're like, oh, these wines pair well with these different things. I don't eat wine. I don't drink wine, but more of an IPA guy, if you will. But it'll show you basically different fonts that will go with it. So right here, it's showing you Comforta. That was the one I chose, and it's showing me Roboto as the body text. So this is my font I chose, and this is the one it's thinking about. And I can click on Open Sans, and it'll show me Open Sans against it. It'll show me Montserrat, Oswald. That's too busy. That's too hard. And then Playwright. I feel like this one's a little too. Oh wait, that's not even. That's weird. Yeah, I don't like this one anyway. So I'm thinking. I think I use Roboto, to be honest. I think with this one, I'm going to go ahead and use Open Sans, and I'm going to go Comforta and Open Sans. Now, this more than likely is not going to be inside of Photoshop. I'll type it in and see if it's there. If it is, great. But otherwise, what I'm going to do is just look for fonts that basically look like the two of these, and then I can kind of use them. I just like this way of working because if you go into here, you're going to see, I'm going to make a new layer now, and we're going to call this fonts, okay, and let's go to type here, and then, okay, and let's just do 18. I think that's good enough. Actually, yeah, we'll do 18. And then, let me see. Let's see if Comforta is there. Yeah, see, it's not even in there. Going through this is very, like, cumbersome, if you will. So what I'm going to do, you're just looking through these, and it's hard to read and see and all that other stuff. So I'm just going to look and see if I can find something that's very open. So, like, what's the Century Gothic look like? Let's see. Century. You going to write anything? I'm not seeing anything. Hang on a second. Let me click off. I'm going to go ahead and throw that one away and do a new one. And click on this. And let's just make it much bigger. Let's do 48. Oops, not 478. Let's do 48 Gothic. And this is the color. So click on that. Just make it black so we can see it. And then I'm just going to go ahead and write in Century. This is close enough. Century Gothic. Okay, so it's a very open font. It's not quite as nice as the one I was going to go with, but that's fine. So what I want you to do, this is what we're going to do now, but when you eventually, if you were to use this on your own, I write it out just as it is. So Century Gothic. That way I know what the font is. Then I'm just going to hit enter. And then I'm going to choose, and I was doing Open Sans. Let's see, is there an Open Sans? There is not. Sans. Let me see. This is going to be sans serif. Sans. Well, these are all sans. So let's see if any of these look okay. Actually, do they have Helvetica? I like Helvetica. I don't know if that's in here or not. Helvet. Nope. That's lame. Alright, so I'm just going to look for sans fonts and see if I can find one that I'm okay with. Let's do San again. I'm just going to type in San and then see what we get. Source San. Source San. Kind of like, let's go Source San variable. That one looks okay. So I'm just going to write source. I'm going to hit enter again. And I'm going to change the size too to, let's say, 30. And then we'll just write source sans variable. Okay? Alright. Boom. And then you can see it names it this. I don't really like the name of that. I'm just going to write fonts. Okay. And now, I'm just going to, I have the select tool here. I'm just going to click and drag this aside. And right here, basically, I've got my design choices made, right? So I've decided I'm going to do color. These are the 3 colors I'm going to use, and these are the 2 fonts I'm going to use. So anytime I go to do anything, I'm just going to go ahead and sample these colors and use these fonts. And the nice thing is, too, once you've used the font, the most top choice are the last. It goes from order from what you picked last. So like you can see, these are the 2 last ones, so those are going to show up, which is pretty sweet. So you don't even have to like sample it down here because it will actually show up. It'll stay in the history, I guess is what I'm saying. All right. So that looks fine. Let's see. So next what I'm going to do is just actually start making some stuff here. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in a folder. So I'm going to click on one. I'm going to hold shift, click on the other, and then I'm just going to click on this folder. It's going to put them in a folder. Then we'll just call this, I don't know, reference. Let's just call it design ref. So it's our design ref, okay? Then we'll make a new layer, all right? That way that's just there, and I know what it is, and I can do what I need. And actually, after I'm going to select it too and lock it. So I just make a new layer, put there. And now I don't have to accidentally worry about messing that up or anything. I can still sample from it. Okay, so new layer. And first thing I want to do is I just want to do a background color. So I'm just going to call this background color. So I don't want to do just plain white. Obviously, I'm going to do this one here. I'm just going to do this light color here. So I'm going to hit I for the eyedropper. Or you can click on it over here. I'm going to click on that. Yay. Okay. And then I'm going to hit G for the paint bucket. Now, it might show up as the gradient. I think by default it's on that, which is really stupid because you use that way less than the other. So just click and hold, and then drag down the paint bucket, and go ba-doop. And now that's your color. Okay, so now there's my background color. That looks fine. And now what I need to do is start making my other elements. Okay, so that's my background color. Next, I need to start blocking this out. So I'm going to turn on this. Actually, let's turn that off. And I'm going to turn my, you can do Control H, or I'm just going to show extras. And now I can see my rulers again. Okay, so basically, be very careful when you have the select tool, because I can click and drag and shift these around. Don't do that. You know what I mean? You don't want to mess that up. All right, so back to layer 1 here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and draw out the different things. Okay, so right off the bat, I got to make a decision on kind of what I want this to look like. And I'm going to make it look like a million other ones. I'm going to have a nav bar on the top that just kind of goes all the way across. And so for that, I'm going to need my color. So I'm just going to, let's take this folder and let's put it up on the top. So that way it's not underneath my background. So I just click, you just click and hold and drag up, okay, just like that. That way I can sample it when I need to. All right, so back on layer 1, make sure you have this layer selected. I'm going to go ahead and hit I for sampling. And I got to choose one of these two colors. I'm thinking I'm going to use this one just because it's a little more neutral, and I'll use this if I'm really trying to make something stand out. Okay, so I'm going to eyedrop, click on that guy, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch to the rectangle tool right here. Okay, now again, it might have one of these other ones, so you just click and hold and make sure it's on rectangle. All right, so once I have that, I'm going to go up here and make it pixels. Okay. We don't want to do paths because then we have shapes and stuff and it just gets a little bit weirder. Okay, so we should have that color selected. We should have this. We're just using pixels and what have you. All right, now let's do this. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to hit Control plus to zoom in. Space bar, when you hold it down, brings up the hand. Okay, so I can just move it like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and I'm going to try and put my thing as close to this line as possible, and it should snap to it. I'm going to click and hold and drag. Now what you're going to notice is, see when I get close to this, it goes, toop, see how it snaps to it? Okay? I'm going to click and drag all the way across, and I'm going to say I want it to be, I don't know, that big. All right. So we're going to say that that's going to be up there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it out first, and then I'll fill in text after. Now here's the rule. Notice that I didn't go from this one, because this part here represents the gutter, okay? So what we can do is we can go across the gutters, but we cannot go into the gutters. So for instance, I can't draw it like this. Like let's say I was going to do 2 paragraphs. I would click and drag, but let's say I wanted the paragraph to take 2 columns worth. You go like this. You go from the end of this one. I can go through this one, and then I end here. You don't end in the middle. And then I would start the next one, basically kind of doing the same thing. All right, so you have to leave these open. You can go across into the next column, but you don't go into the gutters themselves. All right, so just be aware of that. Okay, so that's going to be my nav bar, and then underneath that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a call to action slider, and basically that's the big old picture that you see in the middle that like it's usually it has like a carousel, like picture after picture, and it says click me to buy stuff, and you're supposed to click on it and buy whatever the last newest iWatch is or whatever it is. Okay, so for that I have those pictures that I downloaded that I'm just using. So I'm going to go to Cone Landscape. I'm just going to use this picture. So what I want you to do is hit Control A, which is select all. That's Control A is select all in all programs minus Maya because that one's weird, but because that's a 3D program. But Control A is generally select all. So you should know that hotkey. It's a good hotkey to know. You could also just go to select and then just choose all. Okay. Then you need Control C, which is copy. Again, you could go to edit, copy, but Control C is a really common. Control X is cut, Control C is copy. So the difference between cut is that if I cut this, it's literally going to take the picture off. If I just hit Control C, it makes a copy of it in my, what do they call that? The clipboard. Okay, so I'm going to copy it. I'm going to click back to my tab here. I'm going to hit Control V, and now I have the picture. But if you look, it looks a little big, right? It looks a little big. So what I'm going to do is adjust it. So I'm going to switch to this tool now, not the rectangle tool. I'm going to go to this guy. I'm going to hit Control T for free transform. Or you go to Edit. So I hit Control V, like Victor, by the way, to paste this. It was Control V. Or you can go to Edit, Paste. Okay. But anyway, so I'm going to go to the transform. And then I can hit Control T for free transform. Or you go to Edit, free transform. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and drag. Now, for those of you that are used to Photoshop, you used to hold Shift to keep things proportionate. It's the opposite now. Now they have you do not that. So just be aware. And what I want to do is I'm going to make it so that it goes 2 columns in, and then it's however many columns, and then 2 columns from this side. I'm going to try and keep things even. So with that being said, I'm going to click and drag until I get this right to that line. I don't think this snaps, does it? No, it doesn't. So I'm going to do the best I can. And then I'm going to click and drag and make sure I get right to the edge, right there, and then I'll hit Enter to say good enough. Now, if you look, you can see it's off of this. It should be hugging it. So I'm just going to click and drag, and then it should snap right there. All right. So good. So now we have my call to action, if you will, and you can see it's on a new layer. Let's just go ahead and call that. Actually, you know, yeah, we'll just call it call to action, and then we'll name this one, double click, and we'll name this one nav bar. Okay. And then what I want to do is I'm just going to kind of have 4 pictures underneath that are just for like our different sections, just to, you know, have different pictures. Okay, so and for that I have these different cones. I just decided to choose different ones so we can see. So let's grab this pine cone. You can see this is literally a clip, or not a clip art, but a stock photo. But I'm just going to use this because this is good enough for what I need. So I'm just going to Control A, Control C, like cat. Okay, and then I'm just going to go make sure I'm on this one, and then I hit Control V. So I want to make sure it's on the top there. Okay, and then I'm going to use my select tool here, and I'm just going to pull it over here, and I'm going to have this go all the way over to here, and I'm going to hit Control T, like they threw out the T in the Boston Harbor. Okay, and I'm just going to scale it until it goes to across 2 spans, right? 2 columns, like that. And then I'm going to grab my next picture. So which one did we just use? I just used pine cone landscape. Let's do ice cream. Okay, so I'm going to do Control A, Control C, Control V. Great, and I'm going to hit Control T. And we're going to get it, and I'm just going to snap it there. Okay, and I'm going to drag it down until it spans 2. Now I know what you're thinking. These don't match up, and they don't. We'll fix that after. I'll probably just have to scan. I'm going to scale them all together. I'm just going to make them span the 2 columns to start with, and then afterwards I can make some choices about what I want to do with the other stuff. Let's do this one. So Control A, Control C, Control V, and then Control T. Now when I'm saying Control, it's Command on a Mac. Just don't forget that too. So I'm going to grab this guy, and I'm going to snap him up to this corner. And you see these little purple lines pop up. And then we're just going to go like that. Okay. Yay. All right. And so I'm doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I might have to make them span more. I think I did that wrong. So let me say, I just did ice cream. I just did hat and floor. Let's do floor sign. Okay. So Control A, Control C, and then we'll do Control V. And he's way big, so I'll do Control T, and then I hit Control T, and then I'm just going to pull it down so I can get to the corner. Pull this down. Oops. He went down pretty far. I'm just using my scroll wheel on my mouse. Okay, and I'm going to put him in this corner, and oof, I'm going to go down more. Yeah. It's a big picture. Let's scale this down again. And okay, pull this up. And come on, buddy, you can do it. Snap to it. There we go. And then I'm just going to click and scale this down. And I'm going to have it span 3, because I think I'm going to have them all span 3. I wasn't thinking, because I wanted to do 4 of them, so they don't span 2. I would span 2 if I wanted to do 6 of these, but I only want to do 4, so I wasn't really thinking that through. So they should be 3. So I'll hit Enter when I'm done with it. I'm going to grab this guy. Which layer is he on? This one? Is this him? No, that's that cone. It's this one here. Okay. I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to move him over here. I'm going to hit Control T, and I'm just going to make sure it spans across 3. So I'm just going to like that. Enter. I'm going to grab my cone, which is on this layer. Bring this guy over here. so it snaps. It's kind of hard because it doesn't have a background, so it's hard to tell where it's there. I think it's there. Control T and span that. Okay, we're going to kind of find a middle ground here. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm just going to put this in the middle. We'll just say it takes up this space. It's too big. And then I'm going to grab this guy, which is this one here. Control T. And I'm just going to make sure it spans 3 as well. Okay. So now if you look, you can see they're not the same size, which is somewhat of a problem. So I have a couple choices I can do here. I can either just, I could try to squash them, which I might do a little bit of, but you wouldn't want to do that in your final image. You'd want to like edit them. So, and then I could also, you know, do some other things. So what I'm going to do is basically do this. Let me see. Here's the cone, right? I'm going to take the cone. I'm just going to move it down a little bit. I'm going to make them all roughly, I think, this guy's size. So then I'm going to go to the hat here, and I'm just going to hit Control T, and I'm just going to, I'm going to hold Shift. This is really naughty to do, but I don't think I'm going to notice that it's stretched. So I'm just going to stretch it down so he's the same size as this, and hit Enter. And then this one, I'm going to stretch it as well. Make sure you select on the layer here first. Control T again, and I'm just going to pull it. I'm going to hold Shift as I click and drag this. And I'm going to go a little bit. That was about as far as I can go before I think it looks too stretched. And I'm going to let go of Shift. And now I'm just going to click and drag and try to get it roughly the same width as that. And I'm just going to put it in the center. And we'll call that good. Let's see, pull them out a little right there. Okay, perfect. And then we'll hit Enter. Okay, so basically I'm going to have these 3 pictures. And they're each going to represent, you know, a different area of what I want. And then... so I have my call to action, I have these basic items here, and then after that, I'm just going to have maybe 2 columns of text, we'll say, okay? But I'm thinking I could leave these like this, and then for the columns of text, I'm thinking it might be good to, like the nav bar up here, have a color, right, that just fills in for the body. So what I'm going to do is make a new layer, okay? And then we're going to, again, use the rectangle tool. Make sure it's pixels, and we still have this orange color. If you don't, just hit I and click on that, and then go back to the rectangle tool. And I am going to have these go all the way across. So we'll just start from here, click and drag, and go all the way to the end there, like so, and hit Enter. All right, so that looks acceptable. That's good, and then let's see what we have so far. I'm going to hit Control minus to zoom out a little bit. That looks okay. And then the bottom section here I think will be a footer, but I'll leave that kind of open, if you will. Alright, so I think that looks okay. So now we just need to add some text to it. So I'm going to turn off this design layer here, this stuff, just because it's not really helpful at the moment. And what I'm going to do now is fill in the text with stuff, right? So for like the nav bar and these things and like that too. So I'm going to go to my text, and so I got Century Gothic here, and I'm just going to go ahead, and I'm thinking what I'll do is put the name of the website, and then I'll have the menu items maybe over here. That's what I'm thinking. So so yeah, that's what we're going to do. So normally you could just, like we did before, is I just clicked and I just went across. What would be better here is you can actually click and drag, and see this will snap to the boxes. And what's good about this is that it'll make it stay in this size. So I'm thinking I'm going to go, it's halfway here. Is this halfway? Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, this is halfway. So I'm going to do halfway. This will be my title. And so I'll try 30 to start with. So I'm going to say So if you look, you can see I need to change my color here. So I'm going to click on that, make it black again. So we're going to say all about cones. All right. So I didn't even need that much space. So, but that's good. All right. Maybe we'll do this. I'm going to click and drag this and give it a little space in between. All right. So that's good. And then I'm just going to click on this, to not use that tool anymore. And then I just want to make it fit to this line. So it's just so that it fits directly in this quadrant. So I'm going to hit Control T. And, okay, so you see how this is beyond it? I'm just going to hit Enter. So it's using the text itself. So I'm gonna hit the text tool. I'm gonna click back on this, and then I'm gonna drag this back to right to the edge of where the actual text is. Okay, and then I'm gonna go back onto this tool. All right, so I just used the text tool to click in here just so I can make the text box smaller. I didn't think it would care when I did the type, but it's just gonna be easier. So now I'll hit Control T. If that didn't work, this will still work regardless. It's easier if I could see the line that I'm snapping to. And we'll go like that, and then hit Enter. Okay, so now you see that fits nicely. Hit the down arrow a couple times. That fits nicely right there, and then I'm going to put my menu stuff right here. Okay, so again, I'm going to use the text. And this time, this is really the only one that's going to be using this. I mean, I might put that down here too, but this is the main one. So here, because it's the other stuff, I'm going to do the source sans variable. And obviously it should be significantly smaller. So let's try like 18. Oops. Hang on a second. Undo that. So make a new layer first. Sorry, it was changing this. Okay, so make a new layer. Good, now we have a new layer and now it won't affect it. So now go source blah blah blah, and then we'll do 18. Hopefully that's big enough. And then we're just gonna put stuff in here. So I'm just gonna click to make a text box. That's a little smaller than I wanted. Well, whatever. So we'll write about. That'll be 1. Okay. That looks fine. And I'm just going to kind of center it in there. And then what might be easier than trying to make a new one, so I'm going to hit Control plus, hold spacebar, go up here. I'm just going to duplicate this. A real neat trick to duplicate them is you could duplicate the layer here, or if you, with the select tool on, if you hold Alt, you see how you get these double arrows? I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to drag it over here. And now, oops, right that. And now I made a duplicate of it. And I'm just going to do that for each menu item. So I'm just going to do, let's say, I'm going to try to center it. And then we'll do one more. We'll do 4 of them. Okay? This guy should be, oops, I'm still on that one. So take this about. And I'm just going to put this guy, there we go. Now he's in the center. All right. So now I just want to change this to something else. So, like about, say, facts. I don't know. Do a facts page. I'm going to go to this one. I'm double clicking on this one. And we'll do contact. That's usually useful. Hit back to this again. And then this one we'll do fun stuff. Because people like fun stuff. At least that's what I'm told. I'm going to click on this. And I'm just going to use the arrow keys to move that in the center. I'm going to click on the contact one and use the arrow keys to put that in the center. Click on the facts one and move that a little bit. Okay, so now those are all centered. So there's my menu, and here are the cones. So it might be fun if maybe, well, we'll just leave it like that for now. Okay, so that looks okay. And then we have this call to action thing here, right? So what I'm going to do is make a new layer right at the top here. Just go Hadoop. And then I'm going to use the rectangle tool. And then I'm actually going to turn on the design stuff. And we're going to sample the dark red. Because this is I'm like, I want you to click this. So I'm going to hit I for the sample tool. Click on that. And go back to the rectangle tool. Okay, so hit I. Click on this to sample it. Go back to the rectangle tool, and then you can turn the design reference back off. Okay. And I'm just going to draw a block in here, like this. Let me see. So we're going to go into the thing 2 here, and then we'll just do Control plus. And then I'm just going to put text inside of this. So we'll just go ahead, and I'm going to just go right here, and I'm going to change the color, and we'll make this one white, and we'll just say, click me, darn it. Okay, looks good. I'll click off, and there. So now we got that, and I'm just gonna use the arrow keys now. I click on this to disengage the text tool. I'm just gonna make sure it's in the center. Okay. All right, good. So we got that. We got that. That looks acceptable. And now what we need to do is let's do these paragraphs next, because that's kind of the next big thing. So I'm gonna click to make a new layer. I'm gonna go back to my type tool, and I'm gonna make sure the color now is back to black. And I want to just put general text in here. So to do that, I'm just gonna kind of cheat and just do lipsum.com. Lipsum.com. So L-I-P, like lip, and then sum. Okay, L-I-P-S-U-M. And I'm just going to click on generate lorem ipsum, and I'm just going to grab like this. Oops. Grab this. Although actually it makes its own lipsum, lorem ipsum, so maybe that would be good enough. I don't know. So we'll leave it at 18, and I'm going to click and drag, and we're going to make this half of it. And then let's see. Oh, see, it did a decent amount. I'm just going to go ahead and hit Control V, because that's just more lorem ipsum. It just works better. And you know what? I'm going to click in here, hit Control A to select all of it. And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. It feels a little too big. So let's do 12. That's too small. Let's do 16. 16 will work. Okay. So I'm going to say that's one. I'm going to hold Alt over top of it and click and drag and bring that over here. Like that. Okay. And then I'm just going to hit Control H, like high, to remove that. And now if you look, you can see we have this website. Now, normally, I just don't want it, this video is getting kind of long, and I think we've covered enough stuff. So normally what I would do is maybe put like a title on these two, and then have the lorem ipsum, and then in here I would put like little titles for each section. You know, like pine cones, and ice cream cones, and party cones, and safety cones. But I'm just going to skip that for now. But so this is what I'm picturing my site going to be. Obviously, these are placeholder images. Eventually, these would be the finalized images. But when you're done, you now have something. I could take this, I could show my client and be like, hey, what do you think of this? Is this layout work for you? You know, and then basically get an idea from them about what they like from there. Okay? And like I gotta tell you, like I don't like this body font, so like that's something I would change too. But yeah, so that is it. So once you're done with that, what I want you to do is you're gonna save this. So I'm gonna do Control Shift S, or actually let's just do it this way. File, Save As, and I'm just gonna save it right to here, and just do your last name. So I'm gonna do cone. See, that doesn't work because that's what I'm doing my thing about. So just your last name, whatever it is. So I don't know, whoever you are, and then underscore, and just do wireframe. Okay, and it'll be a PSD. Then what you're gonna do is this. You're gonna get out of here. Where are you at? Oh, right here. There it is. You're gonna take this, and then you're gonna submit that onto Blackboard. Okay, so just hopefully as a reminder, I mean, hopefully you know how to use Blackboard at this point, but basically when you submit the file, this is all you got to submit. Just submit that file, and then that would be it. Okay? If there are any issues, I know it's like for some of you that don't have any Photoshop experience, this is obviously going to be quite cumbersome. Just do the best you can. I grade the labs pretty leniently. I'm more or less just making sure that you're doing the steps. Whether you did the steps wrong, you know, I understand. So hopefully you can, you know, get this done. You know, and feel free with most of the stuff. I don't care if you guys sort of change it. Like if I write something, if you want to write something else, go for it. If you want to use different pictures, go for it. I just want to make sure you're doing all the things that I'm doing. That's what I care about. Okay, so in fact, I promote exploration. Okay, so other than that, you guys should be good to go.